A quiet black student gets bullied because of where he comes from. But no one knows he's the son of a powerful, mysterious kingpin. He never fights back. He just writes every name, every cruel act, all recorded, until one final sentence leaves the entire school in stunned silence. Watch till the end to understand why silence can be the most terrifying form of control. Don't forget to like, share, and comment to spread this story. At Northbridge High, where every blade of grass seemed trimmed to military precision, as if even a single stray leaf would be out of place, Liam sat alone at the edge of the football field, his back pressed against the rough brick wall. His worn-out backpack beside him, he carefully unwrapped the lunch his mother had packed. A few slices of ham sandwich, an apple, and a bottle of plain water. Liam Moretti, the new transfer from a southern city, was the only black student in his class. With deep brown skin, dark, quiet eyes, and short, tightly curled hair, his face often held an eerie stillness. He didn't speak unless spoken to, and he made no effort to blend in, not out of arrogance, but because he understood one thing too well. The world didn't come pre-made with space for kids like him. Back where he came from, he'd grown used to the sneers, the whispers no one ever owned up to. But here, the cruelty wore a different mask. One of offhand jokes, indifferent stares, and solitary lunches where no one ever sat beside him. In the distance, a group of students approached, loud, confident, moving as if the schoolyard belonged to them. At the front was Jason Carter, captain of the basketball team, tall, white, blonde, and built like someone who belonged in every yearbook photo, every assembly, and every hallway rumor after class. As Jason's eyes scanned the field and landed on Liam, a smirk crept across his face. He gave a small nod, signaling his friends to slow down, just enough to make the moment stretch. "Hey!" Jason called out, voice dipped in mockery without a hint of shame. "What's for lunch? Soul food? Or your mom cooking 'cause the restaurant ran out of staff?" Laughter exploded behind him. Brandon, the loudest of the bunch, chimed in. "Better watch out. If he pulls out some chicken wings, I might not be able to help myself." The laughter echoed. Not because the joke was clever, but because the target had no right to fight back. Liam said nothing. He didn't even look up. He simply folded the half-eaten sandwich, set it aside, and opened the book lying next to him. His long, slender fingers turned the page slowly, as if every word needed to be carved into memory. That silence. It made everything freeze for half a beat. Just half. Then Jason chuckled, shook his head, and turned away, like he'd just seen something too dull to bother with. As the group walked off, Liam didn't move. He wasn't angry. He wasn't sad. He just kept reading. But his eyes, if anyone had looked closely, weren't reading the page. They were looking through it, as if remembering, as if recording, as if mapping out a system. On the cover of the book, faint but sharp as a warning, were the words, "The quiet ones remember everything." The next afternoon, Liam walked into the cafeteria with his usual calm. No rush, no jostling, no scanning the room for a familiar face. In his hands was a simple tray, ham sandwich, a few slices of fruit, and a carton of milk. No one spoke to him. No one looked bothered either. Just silence. A hollow kind of silence that somehow chilled the air. Around him, the cafeteria buzzed like any other day. Laughter bouncing off the walls, forks clinking against metal trays, the dense scent of food lingering in the overheated room. Liam chose a corner table, away from the harsh lights, away from anyone who might notice. He had barely sat down, hadn't even picked up his spoon, when a large shadow fell across the table. Liam didn't need to look up to know who it was. Jason Carter, of course. Same cocky grin, same smug face. This time he didn't need words to command attention. His actions spoke loud enough. A casual elbow accidentally knocked Liam's tray off the table. The milk hit the ground and burst open, white liquid spreading like a stain across the cold tile. Fruit rolled, the sandwich skidded under the table leg. The cafeteria seemed to hold its breath for a moment, then burst into laughter from Jason's group. Jason leaned in slowly, pretending to sound remorseful. "Oops, my bad. Didn't see you there," he said, then added with a sneer, "You got enough money for a second lunch? Or should I start a fundraiser?" His smirk curled cruelly. A few students nearby glanced over, then just as quickly looked away, pretending not to notice. It was easier to be blind than to face what was wrong. Liam didn't say a word. He knelt down, gathering the scattered food, his hands steady, his eyes unchanged. The sandwich was soaked and torn, the fruit bruised. But he picked up everything, carefully, like it was the last meal he'd ever have. No one helped. No one stopped Jason. And strangely, Liam didn't resist. That night, Liam's bedroom glowed dimly from a small yellow desk lamp. Outside the window, the quiet of a suburban town wrapped the streets like a blanket. Everything seemed asleep, except his mind. He sat at his desk, flipping through his usual notebook. Then he paused, reached into his bag, pulled out an old leather journal, its corners worn soft with time. Inside, the pages were filled with small, neat, precise handwriting. Not a diary, not class notes, a list. Names, incidents, dates. He turned to the page labeled JC beneath. 2 existing entries. He added another line in black ink. Incident 3, 321, cafeteria. Food tray knocked over. No one defended. He stared at the words for a long moment. Not with anger, not sadness, just complete, unwavering stillness. A strange kind of peace. The kind that comes when someone finally understands. This game isn't about winning or losing. It's about who controls the rules. Liam closed the journal, switched off the lamp. The room fell into darkness. Only the faint light of a lone star outside filtered in. He looked up at it, eyes wide open, unblinking. People fear the roar, but they forget. It's the silence that's truly terrifying. He didn't fight back. He just wrote your name down in his book. If you found out someone had been quietly recording every time you treated someone badly, what would you do? Tell us in the comments below. The next morning, the second-floor hallway at Northbridge High was packed, as usual, before first period. Students shoulder to shoulder, opening lockers, grabbing books, laughing, high-fiving like it was any other day. But something in the air felt different, as if some invisible pressure was pushing down between the footsteps and the noise, bending the space just slightly out of place. No one noticed the boy walking slowly up the stairs. Liam, still the same quiet, dark-skinned student, had his backpack slung over one shoulder and a cloth-bound notebook in hand. No one greeted him, but no one dared laugh in his face anymore either. The silence that trailed him now wasn't the silence of being ignored. It was the kind that came with hesitation, with caution. By the far wall, where sunlight had discolored the brick over time, Jason Carter leaned against his locker, half smirking, half watching. like a predator waiting for the right moment to pounce. He chewed his gum lazily and gave Brandon a subtle nod, a signal that needed no explanation. Liam approached. Not fast, not slow. He didn't look at Jason, but he didn't avoid his gaze either. The air in the hallway seemed to thin, as if every sound echoed inside the chests of those watching. "Hey!" Jason called out, then spun suddenly, slamming his shoulder into Liam's chest in a move that felt just a bit too accidental. The hit was hard enough to send Liam back a step, his spine bumping the wall. His backpack slid off and hit the ground, spilling. Books in every direction. One of them skidded all the way to a student's feet. The kid hesitated, bent down as if to help, then changed his mind and walked away without a word. Brandon laughed. Too loud, too long. A few others turned to look, then looked away, pretending they hadn't seen anything. The same old rule of silence. But no one realized yet. This silence wasn't like the ones before. Jason smirked and turned to walk away, like it was all just harmless fun. But he didn't get far. A voice stopped him. Quiet, but sharp enough to slice through paper. "Hey, you dropped this." Jason froze. Turned. Liam was standing there, calm and upright, holding out a black folder Jason hadn't even noticed he'd lost in the scuffle. No one else had seen him drop it. Not even Jason. But Liam had picked it up. His gaze was steady. Not confrontational. Not afraid. Just cold. Still. His voice, smooth as velvet and hard as steel. "Not everything that falls gets picked up by someone else, but I remember those things for a long time." Jason flinched. Just a flicker. Just for a moment. But it was enough to silence Brandon mid-laugh. Liam knelt down to gather his fallen books. Slowly, methodically. His hands didn't shake, even though he'd just been shoved in the middle of a crowd. When he stood again, he looked at Jason once more. That same unreadable expression. But this time, Jason didn't smile back. A few students stepped away from Jason's side. A girl who used to trail him like a shadow turned and walked off. Her face had changed, like something had finally clicked. Jason glanced around. No one was laughing. No one cheered him on. No backslaps or "Nice one, bro." Just silence. But not the kind he knew. This silence had eyes, ears, memory. Liam turned and walked away without looking back. His footsteps steady, like the moment had meant nothing. But the weight of his shadow hung heavy in the hallway, leaving the air tight and breathless. Jason didn't move. His grip on the folder tightened. For the first time, he wasn't so sure he was still in control of the game. After that morning, the second-floor hallway seemed to hold its breath for a few seconds. No one mentioned Liam returning the folder. No one spoke about the way he looked at Jason, an expression that held no anger, no pity, and not a trace of fear. But everyone remembered, and Jason remembered it best of all. Amid Brandon's forced laughter and the confused glances from students nearby, one thing lingered. That faint smile. Not a threat, not a challenge, just a period, an ending, to the era where Jason believed he was the one in control. That afternoon in history class, the room was lit bright as always by the midday sun, but the atmosphere felt altered. Outside the window, maple trees swayed in a soft breeze, golden light flickering across the white classroom walls. Jason sat in the third row, trying to keep his usual pose, elbow on desk, legs stretched out, chin tilted just enough to feign indifference. But his eyes kept drifting to the back of the room. There sat Liam, just like every other day. Backpack neatly beside him, notebook open, eyes on no one. He paid Jason no attention, and that only made it harder for Jason to look away. Liam wasn't doing anything, but Jason felt as if he were being watched, not by Liam's eyes, but by something deeper. Memory, calculation. At the front, Mr. Raymond, over 50, with a gravelly voice, like sandpaper, wrote the day's topic on the board: social control and invisible power structures in history. He turned to face the class, chalk in one hand, the other resting on the desk. Can anyone name a historical organization that controlled an entire society without using direct violence? The room stilled. Pens stopped scratching. No one wanted to answer. The question was too broad, too abstract, too risky. Jason considered saying something, maybe the deep state, maybe the medieval church. But before he could open his mouth, a voice rose from the back. Not loud, but every word landed heavy, slicing through the silence like a blade through silk. The Mafia. One word, dropped into the room like a stone into a still lake. Every head turned. Liam didn't look up. His hand rested on the desk, head slightly angled toward the window. He continued, his voice even, neither rushed nor slow. They didn't need guns. They needed loyalty and fear, timed just right. No one moved. No one wrote. No one laughed. The air felt frozen. Jason, just a few seats away, felt his throat go dry. He wasn't sure if it was the sunlight, or if Liam's words had cracked something deep inside the room's illusion of safety. Mr. Raymond stepped forward slowly, set down the chalk, frowning, not in disapproval, but in surprise. "Liam, where did you read that?" For the first time, Liam raised his head. His eyes, dark, deep, utterly still, met the teacher's. "I didn't read it, sir. You live close enough to something long enough. You understand it." A short answer, but it sat heavy, like a weight pressing down on every chest. Jason shivered. A thought slipped through his mind, unnamed, but undeniable. He doesn't just understand power, he lives with it. No one asked more questions, but every glance in the room carried the same silent line. Moretti? Could he be that Moretti? Liam lowered his head again, opened his notebook, wrote a few lines. No one knew what they said. Only Jason, still watching, noticed. Had been writing before, during, and after he spoke, as if it had all been calculated. Sunlight still spilled onto the floor, but the real light that had filled the room was the kind of truth no one wanted to face. The quietest person in the room might be the one who knows the most, and worse, the one shaping how you behave, without you even realizing it. He said, "Mafia," right in the middle of class, not loud, not afraid, but it was enough to silence the entire room. What do you think of Liam after that answer? Hit like and stay with us till the end. Because the real question is, who is Liam, really? No one talked about Liam's Mafia answer after history class that day, but no one forgot it. The crisp delivery, the cold tone, the way he said it. It didn't sound like a straight-A student reciting something from a textbook. It sounded like someone who understood power from the inside out. It left an invisible crack in the room. No one could see it, but everyone stepped more carefully afterward. Jason felt it the most, and it made him uneasy. Since Liam arrived, Jason had never truly seen him as a threat. A quiet black kid, always sitting alone, not part of any group, nothing worth his attention. But now, the shadow Liam cast from the back row felt heavier than any spotlight Jason had ever stood under. The calm in Liam's gaze, the way he returned, a folder Jason didn't even know he'd dropped. The voice, soft but sharp as velvet-wrapped steel, and that black notebook he always carried like it was an extension of himself. Jason had to know what was in it, not out of curiosity, but because, deep down, he felt like he was the target. Tuesday afternoon, 3D, last period was canceled. Teacher out, sick. Students spilled out of classrooms like a shaken hive. Liam packed up slowly, unbothered, moving at his usual unhurried pace like nothing in the world could ever make him rush. Jason waited. He watched Liam leave the hallway, then slipped back into the classroom, gently pushing the door open. The room was empty. Sunlight stretched across the floor in long golden strips. Liam's black backpack still sat on the back desk, neat, composed, just like him. Jason sat down. His hand hovered over the zipper. His chest tightened. Part of him wanted to stop, but the other part, the stronger part, wanted to rip through whatever mask Liam was using to manipulate this entire school. He unzipped. The bag, the black notebook, was tucked in the back, leather-bound, tightly stitched. The corners worn, but the cover still smooth. Too much care. Too deliberate. Jason opened the first page. Not a diary. Not class notes. A family tree. Handwritten in bold black ink. Each branch meticulously drawn. At the center, Moretti branches extended, outward. Carlo, New York. Luca, Napoli. M. Sir Moretti, San Francisco. L. Moretti. Chicago. Jason froze. He'd heard that name before. Moretti. Not in history books, but in hushed adult conversations. In the kind of news that never made it to official records, but carried weight in places law couldn't reach. And Liam L. Moretti sat right at the center. Jason flipped to the next page. A list, not a few names. Nearly the whole class. Name, behavior, date, location. Status: Jason Carter Incident 1, 2-12. Courtyard. Verbal discrimination incident 2, 3-14. Cafeteria. Food aggression incident 3, 3-21. Hallway. Intentional collision. Note: no remorse. Aggressive reaction. Under observation. Amy Stevens. Incidents of ostracizing new students. Impact: low. Spreading influence. Brandon Lee 2 verbal bullying accomplice instances. Status: passive. Lacks independent control. Jason went pale. His hand trembled as he turned another page. A timeline graph of student misconduct, lined up with staff rotation schedules. Next page. A map of the school's camera system, with blind spots marked in red. A smaller chart listed teachers with known ties to specific student cliques. There was no doubt now. This was a social surveillance system. Liam wasn't just documenting behavior. He was analyzing movement patterns, building models, mapping influence networks. He wasn't fighting back. He was rewriting the rules. Jason flipped to the last page. A small sheet clipped to the notebook. One single line. When they think they're watching you. You've already finished your assessment. Right below it, his name was circled in red. Next to it, 3 confirmed incidents, pending classification. Jason's breath caught. His palms were slick with sweat. This wasn't about being watched. He was being evaluated, and possibly about to be removed from a game Liam never had to stand up to win. He slammed the notebook shut, shoved it back into the bag like nothing had happened. But as he stood, a loose paper slipped out, fluttering face down onto the floor. Jason bent down to pick it up. One handwritten line. Neat. Calm. If you're reading this, you've already crossed the line. Jason stood frozen. From down the hall, slow, steady footsteps echoed. Soft, but purposeful. No voice. But somehow, Jason knew. Liam knew. He always knew. Jason slipped out of the room quietly. The evening breeze grazed the back of his neck like a cold blade. For the first time, he realized, the quietest one in the room is the one rewriting the rules. And he was already a move too late to escape the game. Ever since the afternoon Jason opened that notebook, he hadn't been the same. No one knew what had happened in that empty classroom. But the next morning, as Jason walked through the hallway, people didn't look at him the way they used to, and he didn't look at them the same either. In the cafeteria at lunch, everything seemed normal on the surface. Trays clattering, laughter rising, the heavy scent of pizza in the air. But beneath that noise, something had shifted. A current had changed direction. At a corner table on the east side, a group of seniors whispered, not loudly, not laughing. "I saw Liam writing something down right when Jason passed by him yesterday." That notebook. It's not just random notes. He's hit 3 strikes. Jason could get suspended. Someone bit their lip, nodding slowly. "I'm keeping my distance. If he writes your name next, you're done." No one joked. No one pushed back. They just nodded like it was a matter of survival. At the next table over, a girl quietly pulled out her phone and left the group chat NB Royals. No one asked why. Another student saw it and did the same. One link fell. Another slid silently behind it. Liam sat, not far away, his usual seat by the window. The afternoon sun cut across his short curls and deep brown skin. His face remained still, each movement deliberate and unrushed. The black leather notebook sat beside his tray, closed, silent, as if asleep. But everyone knew it could open at any moment. And when it did, anyone could be in it. Jason sat at the farthest end of the room, back turned to Liam, but ears straining, radar up for every whisper in the air. He opened his phone, typed quickly. "Brandon, you left the group?" No response. A minute later, he checked Rachel, his ex. Left the group. He swallowed hard, looked up. Brandon was laughing, with someone else now. Amy spotted him, then looked away fast, eyes dropping to her tray. And at the table beside him, 2 people stood and moved seats the second he walked near. Jason gripped his phone. That old, familiar feeling, being at the center, the one in control, was gone. He stood, headed toward the exit. As he passed Liam's table, no one touched, no one spoke, no eyes met. But in that moment, Jason caught a glimpse. Liam was pressing pen to paper. He didn't need to look, didn't need to ask. Jason knew. It was about him. That night, Liam sat by his window, desk lamp casting warm light over his left hand as he turned a page in his notebook. His phone buzzed gently, a text from an unfamiliar number. Devon, a student from another class, someone who'd never spoken to Liam before. "I don't know exactly what's going on, but I've noticed how calm you are. You seem different. If you ever need someone to talk to, I'm here." Liam didn't reply. He just looked away from the screen, opened the notebook, and wrote, "Devon, initiated contact. clear goodwill. Later that same night, in the admin office, an anonymous email landed in the school's official inbox from L. Moretti. Subject: documentation. Case: Jason Carter. Attached: surveillance footage from March 21st. Jason shoving Liam for the third time. Clear. Unedited. No explanation necessary. Below the clip, a single line. I believe it's time the school reevaluates what safety means, not just for the bullied, but for the system that keeps letting it happen. Final scene. Jason sat alone behind the athletic field, long after the lights were out. Wind curled around him, cold and sharp. His phone screen glowed faintly. The group chat NB crew, once his little empire, now had one member left: Jason Carter. In the distance, the sound of a car horn. Jason looked up. A sleek black sedan pulled slowly to a stop just outside the school gates. No one stepped out. No visible plate. No brand logo. Just presence. Heavy. Absolute. Jason tightened his grip on the phone, stepped back. In his head, a line from that notebook echoed again. No punishment necessary. People just need to understand when it's time to stop. Liam didn't shout, didn't threaten, didn't touch a single person. He simply watched and let silence do the rest. Late afternoon, Northbridge High was thinning out. Footsteps faded down the halls. The sun was dying. The soccer field was silent. The school gates about to close. A few students rushed out. A few teachers packed up lesson plans. The wind was gentle, just enough to push a maple leaf spinning across the brick path. Jason stood still at the gate, hands in the pockets of his jacket, head low. No phone, no chewing gum like always. Just a boy trying to convince himself things were still normal. But he knew they weren't. From a distance, the smooth hum of an engine drifted in, not loud, but clear with every press of the gas. Jason looked up. A sleek black sedan with unreadable plates, no logo, and tinted windows pulled up to the curb in front of the school. It moved slowly, deliberately, as if it didn't want to disturb the space, only announce its arrival. Then it stopped. Jason didn't move. His fingers clenched the strap of his backpack. His chest tightened like someone had quietly wrapped their hand around it. The front door opened. A man stepped out. Tailored black suit, deep gray tie, a face composed yet unreadable. Gloved hands, dark brown eyes that didn't smile, but didn't burn with anger either. He stood by the open door and gave a slight nod, as if Jason were an invited guest to a very private meeting. Then the other front door opened. A second man stepped out, taller, broader, rounder face, colder eyes, silent. He stood exactly half a step behind the first man. No sunglasses, no visible weapons, no unnecessary expression, just presence, and a silence heavy enough to crush air. The first man began walking slowly toward Jason. He stopped a meter away, slipped his hand from his pocket. As he lifted his arm, a glint of silver peeked from beneath his cuff. A worn silver ring, carved with a coiled dragon circling a bold M. Jason took a step back. His heart pounded like war drums. The man smiled, polite, but more terrifying than rage. He extended his hand, calm and almost gentle. Jason Carter? His voice was low, even, each word lightly spoken, but none could be ignored. Jason didn't answer. His lips pressed tight, his throat bone dry. The man went on. The boss would like a quick word with you. Nothing long, nothing forced, but you should come. Jason still didn't move, his eyes locked on the ring, the dragon, the M. Moretti. A thin veil of fog began to settle over the school grounds. Jason felt a chill run down his back. Not from the cold, but from the realization Liam never needed to retaliate, because someone was already ready to stand in his place. A leaf dropped quietly beside Jason's shoe. The sedan sat idle. The two men waited, patient, unhurried. But there was no real choice. Jason nodded, slowly, without a word. The rear door opened. No one pulled him. No one forced him in. He climbed in on his own, and as the door shut behind him, his forgotten phone buzzed once on the bench beside. The gate. An unread message from an unknown number. You can learn to forgive, or you can learn consequences. Depends on how fast you grow up. No name. No emoji. Just a quiet message. From the shadows. The car pulled away. Smooth. Silent. Unhurried. Just like the man who drove it. In the front seat, the silver ring tapped gently against the glass as the man rested his elbow on the door. A small final nod to the school, now sinking quietly into dusk. The car stopped at the curb beside an old-style cafe, its soft yellow light spilling out like a quiet invitation. No sign, no music, no passing customers. Jason stepped out, guided by silence. No one touched him, but he knew there was no turning back. Inside, the cafe felt cut off from the rest of the world. A hush hung in the air. Warm lighting, dark wood furniture, the scent of aged timber mingling with the fresh bite of espresso. Two servers stood motionless in a far corner. They didn't look at Jason, didn't move. He was led to a small round table by the window, where the street blurred beyond the fogged glass. Jason sat. His fingers never left the glass of water waiting for him. The cold from the window seeped into his palm, but it was the only thing he could feel through the weight crushing his chest. Then, the bell over the door rang. 3 figures entered. 2 men in black suits walked in first, broad-shouldered, unreadable. Their presence alone lowered the temperature in the room and behind them. He walked in. No introductions. Jason knew, he felt it, from the very first step. The man wasn't tall, wasn't imposing, but every footfall he laid on the wooden floor seemed to pull time back a beat. Salt and pepper hair, neatly combed, black suit, shirt open at the collar, no tie, a sliver of silver peeked from beneath the cuff. A ring carved with a coiled dragon wrapped around a bold M. Jason had seen it. In the notebook. In his memory. In his fear. The man sat across from him. No smile. No anger either. Just eyes. The kind that had seen far too much to need expression. Between them, he placed a white envelope on the table with 2 fingers. It landed like it weighed nothing, but felt like it carried everything. Jason picked it up. His hands shook. Inside, a photo. Jason, mid-motion, dumping a tray of food onto Liam, a smirk on his face. Mouth curled in mock laughter. Liam bent down, picking up the mess. The camera angle, it wasn't from school security. Beneath the photo, a handwritten line. I watch, but I don't always intervene. Jason looked up. He tried to speak, but the words stuck, maybe because his throat had closed. Maybe because there was nothing left worth saying. The man raised a hand, a small gesture. No need for words. Then he spoke. His voice was low, steady. Not a wasted syllable. I could have sent someone else. Trust me, they're very good at what they do. But some things, a father should handle himself. Jason straightened in his seat. Pure instinct. I'm not here to teach you a lesson. I'm here for my son. Because he chose not to respond. A pause. The man's eyes softened. Just slightly. He didn't say anything, but I saw. And you know what? Silence is the most terrifying thing. For people who think they've already won. Jason dropped his gaze. He didn't cry, but the dark under his eyes had deepened. The man continued, each word like a stone laid with deliberate weight. We don't believe in violence, Jason, but we never forget. The words didn't need to be sharp. The truth was already enough to cut. A silence settled. Only the soft hum of the cafe's heater filled the space. Then, calmly, the man said, "This time, it's a chance for my son to learn forgiveness. And for you, a chance to realize how lucky you are that he chose not to fight back. But if there's a next time, I won't be the one sitting here. And maybe no one will be sitting at all." Jason nodded. He couldn't speak anymore, because in that moment, the arrogant boy from before was gone. The man stood, nodded politely, not with pride, not with threat, just as a father who had said what needed saying. Jason remained seated. The man and his two guards left without a sound. Behind the fogged glass, dust floated gently through the golden light. The room was just as quiet as when Jason had first entered. But he was no longer the same, because sometimes a nod can be sharper than the finger that pulls the trigger. The next morning, clear skies, soft sunlight. Everything at Northbridge High looked normal. Students poured in from the parking lot, slinging backpacks over their shoulders, earbuds in, mouths full of breakfast sandwiches or bubbling with laughter. The bell hadn't rung yet. There was still time to joke, to shout, to pretend everything was fine. But on the second-floor hallway, where it all began, the air felt different. Jason Carter stood by his locker, fumbling with the combination lock. No gum in his mouth. No Brandon beside him. No one clapping him on the back, nudging him toward the cafeteria. Only the squeak of metal and the sound of his breath cutting through stillness. A group of students passed by. No laughter, no glances, just quicker steps. One person stepped aside as soon as they saw him. Another kept, their head down, like passing someone in mourning. Jason flinched, spun toward the far end of the hall. Footsteps, slow, steady, not loud, but loud enough to still the air, as if the hallway itself was bracing for something to happen. Liam appeared. Still, the same quiet black kid with the unreadable eyes. Dark hoodie, crossbody backpack. Notebook tucked beneath one arm. No guards, no followers, no glow of triumph. Only a silence thick enough to stop anyone from stepping too close. Jason stepped back, instinctively. No one had touched him. No one asked him to move. But he did. Stepped aside. He avoided Liam's gaze, as if afraid that meeting his eyes for too long would make him fall apart. Liam walked past. No pause, no word, no glance. But everyone nearby watched, waiting to see what Jason would do. He bowed his head. Other students looked at Liam, not with suspicion, not with judgment, but like someone who had walked through fire and emerged without burning anyone else. A red-haired girl, once part of Jason's crew, passed Liam with a book in hand. She paused, just half a second, then gave him a quiet nod. No words. But something in her expression felt honest. Almost. Grateful. A freshman, barely a whisper, stepped up to Liam's side. "What did you do to him?" Liam turned. Sunlight hit his face through the tall windows. No anger, no pride, no frost, just the look of someone who had nothing left to prove. He smiled, barely, thin as a blade. But it didn't cut. "I didn't do anything. People just figured out where the line is." He turned and walked away. No one stopped him. No one questioned him. Each step was quiet, but it felt like laying one last stone into the structure he'd built beneath everyone's feet, not with force, but with invisible control. At the far end of the hall, Jason still stood, eyes empty, locker door wide open, but there was nothing left inside. He, once the center of it all, was now the clearest warning of what happens when you cross a line that someone else was patient enough to let you find. Thank you for staying with us until the very last moment of this story. If you've ever been like Liam, quiet but fully aware, or like Jason, thinking you held the power until you were forced to face the consequences, then we hope you remember this. The loudest voice isn't always the one in control. Sometimes, the one who truly holds the power is just waiting for the right moment to let you learn your lesson. If this story left you speechless, made you think, or made you want to share it with someone, hit like to show your support and subscribe for more stories that reach deep beneath the surface.